Hey everybody, thanks for watching The Great Green Room. My name is Julia. Today we're going to be looking at Hello Lighthouse, written and illustrated by Sophie Blackall. Hello Lighthouse is the story of a lighthouse keeper who goes to the highest rock of a tiny island at the edge of the world in order to keep the lighthouse. The first part of the book chronicles his days, which are rather lonely. The wind whistles around the lighthouse. He fishes, he makes food for himself, he writes in the log, he takes care of the light, he writes letters, but he's very lonely until, one day, his wife comes to stay with him. And they are very happy together. Sometimes their life is very exciting. And sometimes it's very boring. And sometimes it's not so good. And one day, his wife has a baby girl. And then it chronicles the life of the young family together in this lighthouse, until one day, the lighthouse keeper gets a letter from the Coast Guard saying that a new light, an electric light, is going to be put in, and that his services are no longer required. So, the family moves away. But not too far. So, Sophie Blackall is just an absolutely fantastic children's illustrator. She's won the Caldecott Medal and everything. So, not only are her illustrations technically beautiful, but they also have layers of interest and meaning that most children's illustrations just don't really. I mean, there's a reason why I don't typically talk about themes and motifs in these videos. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. You don't always want or need a lot of layers of meaning in your children's picture book. But in this case, Sophie Blackall pulls it off and pulls it off so well. So first of all, just the rhythm and cadence of the way this story is told. It's just lovely. It doesn't rhyme, but the way it's told sounds like the ticking of a clock. It sounds like the passage of time. The new keeper arrives to replace the old, to carry on tending the light. He polishes the lens and refills the oil and trims the burnt end of the wick. Throughout the night, he winds the clockwork that keeps the lamp in motion. During the day, he gives the round room a fresh coat of sea green paint. He writes in the logbook and threads his needle and listens to the gathering wind. And it's just wonderful to read out loud. And it sounds just like the ticking of a clock. It sounds just like the passage of time. And that is carried over in the actual story, which describes how his days go. And you think that it sounds like it ought to be boring, but it isn't. Because it's so varied and so well done. It talks about the course of his days. When his wife gets here, it talks about the course of their days. When his child arrives, it talks about the course of the family's days. And it just marks the passage of time over the course of a few years of this lighthouse keeper's life. And all of this is reflected just beautifully in the illustrations. There are so many circles. First of all, the rooms that the lighthouse keeper lives in, obviously, are circular. All the little inset illustrations are circular. The decor in his house, let me find it here. The rugs on his floor, and then when his wife comes, the blanket on his bed. Obviously, the light itself goes around in a circle. Even the waves of the sea. Everything echoes the circles of a clock, the way time would pass. And it all just comes together in this absolutely beautiful whole. It's almost a work of art. It really is. I just love it. It's just lovely. The only objection that I could possibly have is that the context of this book might be a little much for little kids to understand. Probably not really going to understand, first of all, lighthouses, unless you live in a very specific part of the eastern seaboard. Secondly, what is going on with the lighthouse keeper, why he needs to be there. But it is the sort of book that you could, if you were to buy this book, you could read it to your children when they were very young, and as they got older, they would be able to understand more and more about what's going on. And this just absolutely lovely author's note at the end explains where the inspiration for this book came from. I am absolutely giving Hello Lighthouse by Sophie Blackall a 5. It's just a joy. I would definitely buy this. Let me know if you have read this book, if you like other books by Sophie Blackall. I don't think I've ever seen an illustration of hers that I didn't like. She's just a really fantastic illustrator. Once again, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know what other children's books you've been reading, what stuff you like, stuff you didn't like. Thanks a lot.